You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. You probably have heard now, LSU quarterback Jayden Daniels has made it official via post on his own personal social media. He is returning to LSU for the 2023 season, he says, to fulfill the goal of an LSU Tiger and to bring our fans another championship. So Jayden Daniels, who is going to play in the Citrus Bowl, of course, the one question remaining was, would he return for another season at LSU, or would he pursue his NFL dream? And we got that decision today. Let there be no further debate or question or wondering about it. Jayden Daniels returning to LSU. And this is massive news for LSU. It is gigantic news because it is always, always, always a good thing to have experience at quarterback. Always. And it feels funny that I kind of have to explain why having a fifth-year quarterback with 42 games started who led you to the SEC championship game while accounting for 65% of your offensive production, becoming the fourth player in LSU history with 3,000 scrimmage yards in a season, and setting and shattering the quarterback rushing record, returning to your team is a good thing. But here we are. Because some of you want the thing you don't know. And you can't look at what you have right in your face. This is fantastic news for LSU. For a bulk of this season, LSU's offense was basically Jayden Daniels. You went through 6 offensive line combinations in your first 8 games. Jayden Daniels, his ability to improvise, to make plays with his feet, and yes, develop with his arm. He threw for 20. Let me remind you, he threw for 2,700 yards this season. It ain't like you couldn't throw. Were there times you would have liked to have seen more in the passing game? Yup. And my guess is you're going to see that progression year to year because we have a large enough sample size over the years to suggest that, hey, get a quarterback to return for a second season as a starter, a veteran player like this, who now will be in his 5th season as a college football starter, get that guy back on campus. Because it's going to work out. Ask Tennessee how valuable it was to have Hendon Hooker back for a 5th collegiate season this year. You want to just look at LSU over the past 20 years? Cool, let's do it. I got numbers. Numbers are great on radio, right? Actually, they're terrible on radio, but I'm going to run through this. You don't need to memorize it. Don't worry about it. I'm going to throw out a lot of numbers, which I know confuses people on radio, but just listen because you'll understand the point that I'm getting at. Let's go back to Matt Mauck. In 2002, completed 48% of his passes, had a 118 rating. Got hurt that year, of course, came back in 03. He bumped up to 64% completion, 148 rating, and LSU won the national championship. Let's go to Jamarcus Russell in 2005. Threw for 2,400 yards, 15 touchdowns. A year later, 3,100 yards, 28 touchdowns, increased his quarterback rating by 31 points, and went from 60% completion to 67% completion, en route to being the number 1 pick in the draft. Yes, experience matters. Zach Mettenberger in 2012 was really not good for the first 2 months of the season. Ended up throwing for 2,600 yards and 12 touchdowns, completed 58% of his passes. Comes back a year later, 3,082 yards, 22 touchdowns, completed 65% of his passes, and had a quarterback rating 50 points higher than he did in 2012 at 171. Yes, experience matters. And of course, the greatest example, quite literally, in the history of college football is Joe Burrow, who, might I remind you, in 2018 went the entire month of October without throwing a touchdown pass. Came back in 2019, and we saw what happened. In 2018, Burrow threw for 2,800 yards. In 2019, a record 5,671 yards. He went from 16 to 60 touchdowns. His quarterback rating went from 133 to 202, and he went from 57% completion to 76%, just missing the all-time single-season mark. Yes, experience matters. For everyone that's going to sit here today and say, well, let those young guys get some experience. You can't get better till you play. While that may be true, we have seen so many times the value of a veteran player who's played 42 games, having that experience, coming back, and being even better for it. So, a lot of people today are going to ask about the other quarterbacks. I'll get to that in a minute, but I'm going to remind you. You bring back Jayden Daniels now with all of that experience, now having played a year in the SEC, a year under Brian Kelly, a year under Mike Denbrock, a year with Joe Sloan, another year with Kayshon Boutte, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, that offensive line which started to gel late, the running back room which is going to return almost completely intact. You'll have Mason Taylor back at tight end and all the talent that you're adding via the portal and this freshman class. How in the world could anyone not be doing backflips today over this news? You've got a quarterback that started 42 games in college that accounted for 65% of your offense returning for another season. And you're going to ask, well, what if Nussmeier transfers? What if he does? In 2023, give me that guy. Give me 5 every single day and twice on Sunday. And if somebody transfers, Nuss, or what they do, it's the nature of the sport. The guys I just mentioned, Burrow was a transfer. Mettenberger was a transfer. Jayden Daniels is a transfer. Danny Etling was a transfer. You want to talk about the best quarterbacks LSU's had in this program in the last 20 years? They're transfers. So if you got to go dip into the portal at some point, you do, like the rest of college football. The guy that just won the Heisman, transfer. The guy that won the Heisman for you a few years ago, transfer. Kyler Murray, Heisman, transfer. Baker Mayfield, Heisman, transfer. I don't care if you go get a transfer. Will Levis might be the first pick in the draft, transfer. It's the nature of the sport today. I just talked about Hendon Hooker, transfer. I don't care if you have to go get a transfer. It's the benefit. Use the system to your benefit now, if you have to. Play the long game, and if you need to supplement, that's why the portal's there, you do it. But in 2023, I'm going to say this. Today, I don't know how you look at 2023 without thinking LSU is the favorite in the SEC West. Think about it. Alabama's got to replace Bryce Young. I don't know what they have behind him. I mean, I know the names, but that's an uncertainty with Bryce Young gone. And you're losing Will Anderson. They lose serious talent every year, of course. And they reload. They signed a great class last year. A&M signed a great class, or yesterday. A&M signed a great class last year. How did that work out? I'm not telling you Alabama's going 5-7. What I'm telling you is they have serious questions. Do you think A&M is going to have a resurgence? I don't. Auburn, turnover there with Hugh Freeze. I think they'll have a bumpy road in year one. Arkansas, you got KJ Jefferson back. So what? You just went 6-6 with him. And you're replacing your defensive coordinator. I mean, LSU should be the prohibitive favorite going into 2023 out of the SEC West now. And if you win the West, you're a challenge to win the SEC, and you're a challenger for the playoff. It's massive news for LSU today. I can't believe that this isn't going to be viewed as unanimously celebrated, because it should be. And it's a fantastic day for LSU with Jayden Daniels coming back for 2023. Go win this bowl game, get to 10 wins, use it as a springboard into 2023, and hopefully see LSU back in the playoff competing for a national championship. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.